The Morrison Building party was supposed to be my death sentence. Vincent Torino expected me to walk into that 47th-floor penthouse, shake hands with corrupt officials, and become the face of environmental terrorism disguised as luxury real estate. Instead, I walked in wearing a wire, carrying evidence that could bring down a conspiracy worth hundreds of millions of dollars. What I didn't expect was to discover that the corruption went deeper than I'd ever imagined. City council members, EPA officials, federal judges, all of them taking money to let people die slowly from contaminated buildings. And at the center of it all was someone I never saw coming. Someone who'd been controlling Vincent Torino from the beginning. My name is Michael, and this is how I went from a warehouse full of skeletons to a penthouse full of killers. This is the night I learned that in Manhattan real estate, luxury and lies are the same thing. The text message from my mysterious contact had been clear. Bring recording equipment. Trust no one. But finding recording equipment good enough to capture conversations in a noisy penthouse party wasn't easy. Especially when Vincent's people were probably watching every move I made. I drove to 3 different electronics stores in different parts of New Jersey, paying cash for small recording devices. Nothing fancy, nothing that would show up on credit card records. Just basic digital recorders that looked like pens, USB drives, even a watch with a built-in microphone. But the real challenge was staying alive long enough to use them. Vincent's threats about my mother and Lisa weren't empty. That morning, my mom called to tell me she'd noticed the same car parked outside her house for 3 days straight. Probably nothing, she said, but I could hear the worry in her voice. Lisa's situation was worse. When I met her for lunch at the coffee shop where she worked, she mentioned a customer who'd been asking questions about me. Some woman in an expensive suit, Lisa said, wanted to know if we were serious, if I knew about your real estate deals. It was weird, Michael. She knew things about you that I didn't even know. Sarah, Vincent's fake contractor, was keeping tabs on everyone I cared about. That afternoon, I got a call from a mysterious contact who'd been helping me. The voice was distorted, clearly using some kind of electronic masking. Tonight is your only chance to gather evidence about their Manhattan operation, the voice said. But you need to understand something. Everyone at that party is either a victim or a perpetrator. There are no innocent bystanders. How do I know who to trust? You don't. That's why you're going in alone. Record everything. Names, faces, conversations. But be careful, they'll have security everywhere. Metal detectors, signal jammers, people watching for exactly what you're planning to do. What if I get caught? Then you disappear. Just like Marcus Williams. Just like Agent Chun. Just like the 12 other investigators who've gotten too close to this operation over the years. 12 other investigators. I'd thought Marcus and Agent Chun were the only ones. Who are you? I asked. Why are you helping me? The line went dead. The Morrison Building stood 52 stories above Lower Manhattan, its glass facade reflecting the lights of the city like a mirror made of money. As my taxi pulled up to the entrance, I could see why Vincent had chosen this location for his party. The building screamed wealth and power, exactly the image he wanted to project. The lobby was marble and gold, designed to make visitors feel small and poor. Men in expensive suits and women in designer dresses moved through the space like they owned it, which I was beginning to realize they probably did. Security was immediately obvious. Metal detectors at the elevator bank, guards with earpieces positioned throughout the lobby, cameras covering every angle. Getting recording equipment past them would be harder than I'd thought. Michael Rodriguez, I told the security desk. I'm here for the Torino development party. The guard checked his list, then looked at me suspiciously. You're not dressed appropriately. I looked down at my rented tuxedo. It wasn't expensive, but it was black tie. This is a tuxedo. It's a rental tuxedo, he said with disdain. Mr. Torino specifically requested that all guests wear appropriate attire. Before I could respond, a hand fell on my shoulder. Vincent Torino, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than my car. Michael's with me, Vincent told the guard. He's still learning about Manhattan standards. The guard waved us through, but not before giving me a look that made it clear I didn't belong here. Nervous? Vincent asked as we waited for the elevator. Should I be? That depends. Have you made your decision about joining our operation? The elevator arrived, operated by a man in white gloves who pressed the button for the 47th floor without being asked. As we rose through the building, Vincent explained what I was about to see. Tonight, you'll meet the people who really control New York City real estate. City planners who decide which properties get developed. Environmental inspectors who determine which sites need cleanup. Federal judges who rule on lawsuits. Bank executives who approve construction loans. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened to reveal a penthouse that took my breath away. All of them are here because they profit from our operation. The 47th floor of the Morrison Building was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a 360-degree view of Manhattan. Crystal chandeliers hung from a ceiling that must have been 20 feet high. Waiters in white jackets moved through crowds of people who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine about wealth and power. But what caught my attention wasn't the luxury. It was the people. I recognized faces from newspaper photos, from TV news reports, from wanted posters I'd seen in post offices. These weren't just corrupt officials. These were some of the most powerful people in New York. "Michael," Vincent said, steering me toward a group of men in expensive suits, "I want you to meet some of our partners." The first introduction made my blood run cold. "This is Judge Patricia Morrison. She presides over environmental lawsuits in federal court." Judge Morrison shook my hand with fingers covered in rings that probably cost more than most people's houses. "Vincent tells me you're going to help us expand our residential development program." "That's the plan," I managed to say, try to keep my voice steady. "Wonderful. We need young people who understand that environmental regulations are just obstacles to overcome, not barriers to stop progress." The second introduction was worse. "And this is EPA Regional Director James Walsh. He handles environmental impact assessments for major development projects." Walsh was a thin man with cold eyes who looked at me like I was something unpleasant he'd found on his shoe. "Vincent says you've been asking questions about soil contamination. I hope you understand that environmental concerns can't be allowed to interfere with economic development." "I understand," I said, activating one of my hidden recorders. "Good, because people who don't understand that have a way of running into problems. Regulatory problems, legal problems, sometimes health problems." The third introduction nearly made me vomit. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez. She's been helping us monitor the health impacts of our development projects." Dr. Vasquez, the same name that had been on the medical reports Marcus Williams had hidden. The researcher who'd been documenting the cancer clusters, the birth defects, the neurological disorders caused by Vincent's contaminated properties. But this wasn't a crusading doctor trying to expose environmental crimes. This was a woman in a $5,000 dress, wearing jewelry that sparkled under the chandeliers, drinking champagne that cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Dr. Vasquez has been very helpful in ensuring that health concerns don't interfere with our projects," Vincent explained. "How?" I asked, though I was afraid of the answer. Dr. Vasquez smiled. "By making sure that medical reports show acceptable levels of environmental impact. By ensuring that health studies don't find statistically significant increases in disease rates. By preventing unnecessary panic about perfectly safe housing developments." She was falsifying medical reports, covering up evidence of poisoning, letting people die to protect Vincent's profits. As the night went on, Vincent introduced me to more members of his network. City council members who approved zoning variances for contaminated properties. Bank executives who provided construction loans without environmental assessments. Insurance company executives who wrote policies covering buildings they knew were poisoning their occupants. But the biggest shock came when Vincent led me to a quiet corner of the penthouse where a woman stood alone, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. "Michael," Vincent said, "I'd like you to meet the person who makes all of this possible. The brains behind our entire operation." The woman turned around, and I nearly fell over. It was my mother. "Hello, Michael," she said calmly. "I've been waiting for you to figure this out." My mother. The woman who'd worked 2 jobs to support us after my father died. The woman who'd worried about me getting into real estate because she thought it was too dangerous. The woman who'd been living in a small house in Hoboken, struggling to pay rent. Except now, she was wearing a dress that cost more than she was supposed to make in a year. Jewelry that belonged in a museum. And she was standing in a penthouse overlooking Manhattan, like she owned the place. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Your father didn't die in a construction accident," my mother said. "He was killed because he discovered our operation. Just like Marcus Williams was killed. Just like you would have been killed if you hadn't been my son." The room started spinning. Everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. "Vincent works for me, Michael. He has since 1987. The contaminated properties, the cover-ups, the bribes to officials, all of it was my idea. But you were broke. We lived in a tiny house. You worked at a diner and a laundromat. I needed cover. A single mother struggling to make ends meet doesn't attract attention from investigators. But a wealthy woman with connections to environmental crimes does." She walked to the window, gesturing at the city below. "Do you see all those buildings, Michael? All those lights? Half of them are sitting on contaminated land that I helped develop." Vincent joined us at the window. "Your mother is the most successful environmental criminal in American history. She's made over $2 billion in the last 30 years by turning poison land into luxury housing. How many people have you killed?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. "Directly? Maybe 20 or 30 investigators and whistleblowers over the years. Indirectly?" My mother shrugged. "Cancer rates, birth defects, neurological disorders from contaminated housing, probably several thousand. Several thousand people." My mother had killed several thousand people for money. Now you understand why I recruited you, my mother continued. Vincent's operation in Newark was just the beginning. We're expanding into Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens. Eventually, every borough in New York City. Every major city on the East Coast. And you want me to help you kill more people. I want you to help me build an empire. The Torino name is useful, but it's also recognizable. People are starting to connect Vincent to environmental problems. But the Rodriguez name? That's clean. That's young. That's the future of our operation. She handed me a business card. Rodriguez Development Corporation. You'll be the CEO. Starting salary, $5 million a year. Plus bonuses based on project completion. $5 million a year. More money than I'd ever dreamed of. More money than 10 generations of my family had ever seen. All you have to do is what you've already been doing. Buy contaminated properties, renovate them to hide the contamination, sell them to unsuspecting buyers. Except now you'll be doing it with unlimited funding and government protection. Government protection? Vincent gestured around the penthouse. Everyone you've met tonight, they all work for us. Federal judges, EPA officials, city planners, bank executives. We own them all. No environmental lawsuit will succeed. No criminal investigation will find evidence. No regulatory agency will shut us down. Because they're all taking bribes. Because they're all making money, my mother corrected. Bribes are crude. Partnerships are elegant. Everyone gets rich. Everyone stays quiet. Everyone protects the operation. She pulled out her phone and showed me photos. Luxury apartments in Manhattan. Condos in Brooklyn. Townhouses in Queens. All of them built on contaminated land. All of them sold to young families who had no idea they were being slowly poisoned. This is just the beginning, she said. We're planning developments in Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. By the time we're finished, we'll control the majority of urban real estate on the East Coast. And everyone living in those properties will get sick and die. Some will. That's the cost of progress. That's the price of making money in real estate. My mother's voice was as cold as the winter wind outside the penthouse windows. The question is, are you going to be part of the solution, or are you going to be part of the problem? What my mother and Vincent didn't know was that I'd been recording everything. Every name, every confession, every detail of their operation. The recording devices hidden in my clothing had been capturing evidence that could destroy their entire network. But what I didn't know was that they'd been expecting this. "Oh, Michael," my mother said with a laugh that made my skin crawl. "Did you really think we didn't know about your recording equipment?" Vincent pulled out a small electronic device that looked like a TV remote. "Signal jammer. Been running since you walked into the building. Your recording devices have been capturing nothing but static for the last 2 hours." My heart stopped. All the evidence, all the confessions, none of it had been recorded. "But we appreciate the effort," my mother continued. "It shows initiative. It shows you're thinking like an investigator. Those are useful skills in our business. Your business is murder. Our business is real estate development. Murder is just one of the tools we use to protect our investments." She walked to a bar in the corner of the penthouse and poured herself a drink. "Now, let's discuss your future. You can join us willingly, or we can convince you to join us." "What kind of convincing?" Vincent answered by showing me photos on his phone. My mother's house in Hoboken, surrounded by men in dark clothes. Lisa at the coffee shop, with someone I didn't recognize sitting at a nearby table, watching her every move. "Convincing involving the people you care about," Vincent said. "Your mother, your real mother, not the criminal mastermind standing over there, and your girlfriend Lisa. Both of them are currently under surveillance by our security team. If you hurt them, we won't have to hurt them if you make the right choice," my mother said. "Join our operation. Become the face of Rodriguez Development Corporation. Help us expand into new markets. Make more money than you ever dreamed possible. And if I refuse, then Vincent will make some phone calls. Your mother will have a tragic accident. Maybe a gas leak in her house. Maybe a car crash on the highway. Lisa will disappear. Young women vanish in New York City all the time. No one will connect their deaths to you or to us." The choice was clear. Join them or watch everyone I love die. But what they didn't know was that my mysterious contact had prepared for this possibility. As my mother and Vincent waited for my answer, the lights in the penthouse suddenly went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Shouts and confusion erupted from the party guests. "What's happening?" Vincent demanded, speaking into a radio. "Power outage," came the reply. "Building wide. Backup generators aren't responding." In the chaos, I felt someone grab my arm. A voice whispered in my ear, "This way." Now, my mysterious contact, finally revealing themselves. It was Dr. Elena Vasquez. Not the corrupt doctor who'd been falsifying medical reports, but someone else entirely. Someone wearing the same dress, the same jewelry, but with completely different eyes. "I'm FBI agent Elena Vasquez," she whispered as she led me toward a service door I hadn't noticed before. "I've been undercover in this operation for 3 years. But you were falsifying medical reports." I was gathering evidence. Every report I filed with Vincent's organization was copied to the FBI. Every conversation I had with corrupt officials was recorded. Tonight was supposed to be the night we arrested everyone. We reached the service door, which opened onto a stairwell. Agent Vasquez handed me a bulletproof vest. "Put this on. We're going down 47 flights of stairs, and Vincent's security team will be looking for us." "What about my mother? My real mother and Lisa?" "FBI teams are extracting them now. They're safe. But we need to get you out of here before Vincent realizes what's happening." As we started down the stairwell, I could hear Vincent's voice echoing through the penthouse behind us. "Find him. Find Michael now." We ran down flight after flight of stairs, our footsteps echoing in the concrete stairwell. Behind us, I could hear doors slamming open as Vincent's security teams searched floor by floor. "How did you know I was recording tonight?" I asked as we reached the 30th floor. "We've been monitoring your investigation since you bought that first house in Newark. We knew Vincent would eventually try to recruit you. We've been waiting for him to reveal his entire network." "My mother, my real mother, did she know any of this?" "She suspected something was wrong when your father died. She's been cooperating with our investigation for 2 years." We reached the 20th floor when we heard gunshots above us. Vincent's people weren't just searching anymore. They were shooting. "They're trying to kill us," I panted. "They're trying to kill the evidence," Agent Vasquez corrected. "You're the only person who's seen their entire operation. Without your testimony, we can't prosecute anyone." We kept running down the stairs, our legs burning with exhaustion. 15th floor, 10th floor, 5th floor. The gunshots were getting closer. Finally, we burst through the ground floor exit into an alley behind the Morrison Building. 3 black SUVs were waiting, engines running. FBI agents with assault rifles surrounded the building. "Get in," someone shouted. As our SUV pulled away from a Morrison Building, I looked back to see Vincent Torino standing at a window on the 47th floor, staring down at us. Even from 47 stories away, I could see the rage on his face. "Is it over?" I asked Agent Vasquez. "It's just beginning," she said. "Tomorrow morning, we arrest everyone who was at that party. Vincent, your mother, Judge Morrison, Director Walsh, all of them. But first, we need your full testimony about everything you've seen and heard. What happens to all the people living in contaminated buildings? We'll identify every property Vincent's organization has developed. Every building built on contaminated land. We'll relocate the residents and begin cleanup operations." Agent Vasquez looked out the window at the Manhattan skyline. "It'll be the largest environmental remediation project in American history." As we drove through the streets of Manhattan, past buildings that were probably poisoning their residents, past luxury developments that were probably built on contaminated land, I realized something. I'd started this journey trying to flip a $28,000 house in Newark. I'd ended up exposing the largest environmental crime ring in American history. Tomorrow, the news would break. Headlines about corruption, contamination, and conspiracy. Vincent Torino would be arrested. My criminal mother would be arrested. Dozens of corrupt officials would be arrested. But tonight, I was just a 22-year-old kid from New Jersey who'd gotten way over his head. And somehow, miraculously, I was still alive to tell the story.